Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock here. Eric Crocker is off celebrating his birthday, celebrating the graduation of his children this week. Awesome moment. Great dad, Eric Crocker. Go say hi to him and wish him a happy birthday at Coach Crocky on Twitter, or drop a comment on YouTube. It's me solo in this off-season Q&A episode, as we've been doing weekly in the offseason. And it's a big day today because the San Francisco 49ers have officially announced the signing of Brock Purdy. We knew it was happening, but now Brock Purdy has spoken to the media about it and let everybody know how he feels about his own contract and how the San Francisco 49ers are looking heading into 2025. And I think there were some very important things that he did say. In fact, he used the term important multiple times about certain aspects of his contract and what the 49ers are up to, and what Brock Purdy's reasons were for everything that he's done so far this offseason and how things are coming together for the San Francisco 49ers this offseason. I do want to thank everybody for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're new to the program, welcome. Hang out with the everydayers as we talk ball, talk Niners every single day here. It's what we do on the Locked On Podcast Network. So subscribe up on YouTube or anywhere you are listening to this podcast. I love seeing the chat already populating and getting ready for this one. So feel free, if you are live in the chat with me here on this Wednesday evening, let me know what you want to talk about. Give me some topics. Give me some questions about these San Francisco 49ers. I want to talk about the safety position that has been asked of me. And I'm going to start with talking about the Brock Purdy stuff and my takeaways from his press conference now that he has signed with the 49ers long-term through 2030. 2030. Man, my kid's going to be about ready to graduate high school by that time when Brock Purdy's done being a San Francisco 49. Important to be there for phase one is how Brock Purdy started his press conference. And that has not been the case for some 49ers veterans in recent years. And Brock Purdy, not speaking about his own past teammates or anything, but just generally, and he actually did say there's some players around the league. Now, you may think that one of his comments potentially fit a current teammate and maybe past teammates as well, with how contract negotiations went with those guys at those times. But he talked about how important it was for him to be there for the entire offseason, to be there starting in phase one as he was. Getting this deal done early was such a massive thing for the 49ers and for Brock Purdy and the entire football team and the entire locker room. More on the energized feeling around the team that Brock Purdy mentioned in a second. But he also said that he was not consumed by it, letting his agent handle the negotiations. He was in talks and, his agent would break down what's going on. This is happening here. This is happening here. And he talked about how they found the number and they were comfortable with the number and everybody was ready to go with this thing. And then they just had to, figure out some language and just cross the T's and dot the I's and finish the contract and get it over the finish line. But that this was kind of done for a little while with what the number was going to be, where Brock Purdy was comfortable with signing. And he said he was not consumed by it. And he did say that other times he's noticed players around the NFL on other teams. He specifically said on other teams, so it wouldn't get twisted that he's talking about, say, one of his wide receivers on the 49ers, was basically wilding out. And the guys would act out of character and get consumed by the contract negotiations and sort of get a little weird about it. And he didn't want to do that. And that's not the way he's wired. He's such a under control guy. And it kind of speaks to the leadership and the person he is, because, he's not reading the press. He's not getting worked up about stuff. And, he made sure he said that, no, there was fair offers and we countered. And, it was really, he downplayed the whole for such a big contract. Like, this is twice as big as any contract the 49ers have ever done. And for him to downplay, how crazy it was, how difficult it was, not being consumed by it and wanting to get it done. And it just shows how level-headed the guy is and how professional the guy is. And, borderline low-key Brock Purdy, and just being a leader and being ready to go and wanting this team to be all hands on deck, all firsts go, ready to go, phase one, the entire offseason, Brock Purdy wanted to be there, and he is there, and he is now signed. And he talked about the re-energized feeling around the football team, and I think that's really important. And when he was asked about, getting his deal done, getting the Fred Warner contract done, getting the George Kittle contract done, and last year, how coming off a Super Bowl, he got married. Christian McCaffrey got married, right? And it was just kind of like, okay, season's over late, getting married. Okay, we're right back into it. And then there's contract stuff. And you could tell without him saying it that last year just things didn't quite feel right. And we felt like that, even though some people tried to downplay it. It was clearly vibes were off last year. Vibes are much better this year. Re-energized is the term that Brock Purdy used at the San Francisco 49ers. He feels energized. The guys in the locker room, the guys around the team all feel energized. And that's a great thing for a team that really needs to rebound, because they do need to be re-energized. This season has to go differently than last year. It has to. And they have to play better across the board, including Brock Purdy. And being the leader, being there for phase one, wanting to set that example, I think is super important for your quarterback and for the leader of your football team. And as Jeremy mentions in the chat, Brock trying to set a culture of getting things done early and being there for your team while getting your money. And that is so important. And Brock used the term culture. He said it's important to be around each other, building culture with old guys and young guys. And it was important to get that deal done. And absolutely right. That is so important. And that's a winning type of culture. And again, that's why Brock Purdy got paid. That's why he was so good right away for the 49ers. He is that type of leader. He is that type of person, and setting an example. This isn't just, hey, I want to be there, but now my contract's not done, I can't be there. No, he was there. Even when the deal wasn't quite finished, he wanted to be there. He's been there the entire time, ready to go. And so important for building a culture, being around. And I think it's important that he didn't talk about himself as much. He talked about the young guys and how the young guys don't know anything coming into the league, and it's hard. And having the veterans and the young players together as part of building that culture, that is so important. And I was just, he's so impressed with the guy and how professional he is. And it's awesome that they got him done. And really congrats to Brock Purdy, who apparently might go out and buy a bass boat now. As coming from a family with, my dad was a bass fisherman. I was in the Visalia Bass Club actually for a short time as a teenager. I think I have a plaque somewhere. I used to love bass fishing when I was a kid. I haven't been out on the lake in years now. My brother's probably at the lake right now. My brother fishes every time he has an opportunity to. And I was able to get, before my dad passed away, we were able to go out there, and I was able to bring my son out, and it was really cool to see my dad watch my son catch some fish. So I'm with Brock Purdy on that one. It used to be pretty therapeutic, and I don't get out and go fishing enough, but man, we used to do a lot of bass fishing when I was growing up. So I feel Brock Purdy there. I hope he goes out and gets an awesome bass boat and spends some much needed time on the lake in the off seasons, and is able to decompress there, because that is an awesome time, just hanging out all day, starting early in the morning. The sun's not even up. You get out on the boat, go catch the fish when the sun comes up, when they start moving around. I do miss that now that I talk about it, and got to hit up my brother and get out on his boat and do some fishing sometime soon. Dustin in the chat says, doesn't need every dollar for himself, going to set this team up for winning. And that's important. And look, guys can go get theirs, and guys can go get their money, right? Orlando talks about getting back to the NFC Championship game. The 49ers, to be honest with you, and we've talked about this, like, Super Bowl or bust attitude, but look, we've seen the 49ers this era multiple times, the previous era in the Harbaugh era, get to the NFC Championship, win an NFC Championship, but not win the Super Bowl. So that's what's next. Like, NFC Championships are cool, and obviously you want to be a good football team, and it's a heck of a lot better to lose an NFC Championship game or win an NFC Championship game and lose a Super Bowl than it is to go 6-11, right? But man, the culture that Brock Purdy's talking about, that's a Super Bowl winning culture. That's where the 49ers need to be. Now the question becomes, Brock Purdy signed, George Kittle signed, Fred Warner signed, got a lot of big business out of the way. This team is re-energized, old guys, young guys coming together, culture being built for 2025. Are the players ready? Do they have enough talent? Are they leaning too heavily on rookies? And what about one position specifically on defense? Next. This episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And of course, you can still bet on NFL football. You can bet on weekly lines for the NFL season. We know that 49ers schedule. You can get in on that action. You can bet on the San Francisco 49ers to win the Super Bowl. You can bet on Brock Purdy to be the MVP of the league. Tons of NFL futures all ready to go for 2025 at FanDuel. But it's playoff time in the NBA. Playoffs in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, can't miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And how about an extra $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits? So if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com or download the app and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. So the offense mostly intact from 2024 into 2025. They lost one starting offensive lineman in Aaron Banks. They have a couple of options to fill his shoes. I don't think that's going to be a big problem. Depth, a bigger problem probably on the offensive line right now. If there's any regression from any of the players or aging out of Trent Williams would be a rough thing for the 49ers to overcome this season. And then obviously there's big questions about the future at offensive tackle, both left and right side for the 49ers, and where they could improve on the offensive line. Got one, I think, young cornerstone player in Dominic Purdy, and 4 out of 5 might be different here in a couple of years, and maybe even by next year. What happened on the 49ers defense might happen on the 49ers offensive this offseason, might happen on the 49ers offensive line next offseason, depending on retirements and free agency and how some of that stuff goes. But mostly intact. Obviously, we know Deebo Samuel, who has been an awesome player for the 49ers, is in Washington now, but they drafted a first-round player that should be a Z receiver, very different Ricky Pearsall, but he should be ready to go. Hopefully Brandon Ayuk is healthy. Juwan Jennings, who's another guy, if there's another contract that could be done this offseason, Juwan Jennings would be that guy for the 49ers most likely. Does he get re-ups? Does he play out his contract and maybe end up somewhere else for the 49ers with a healthy Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Ayuk being the number 1 and number 2 long-term? We'll see there. But I think Juwan Jennings is up to the task. The 49ers have some other players that can, I think, hold down the fort, hopefully, until Brandon Ayuk is back. And we'll see how long it actually takes for Brandon Ayuk to be back. And hopefully he is back at 100% from his injury, which was a pretty nasty injury. And, it's no guarantee he will be the exact same guy, even when he is fully healthy in his return from not just ACL, but multiple knee ligaments injured last season for Brandon Ayuk. But the offense, I'm not super worried about it. You got Kyle Shanahan, the best offensive mind maybe in the NFL. Brock Purdy is so good at just you don't want to put the system quarterback label on Brock Purdy, but it is a perfect fit for Brock Purdy. Like he is so good for running that offense specifically with Kyle Shanahan. I know there's been talks from, national media, and there's fans that have asked me about it. Like, what about what Chris Sims said about, teams would take Baker Mayfield over him, or Croc and I talked about Jalen Hurts. And, I think nationally, it really, first of all, it doesn't matter, but nationally, some people might like other quarterbacks more than Brock Purdy, and maybe Brock Purdy wouldn't be as good as he is on a different team in a different structure, in a different offense. But man, Brock Purdy with Kyle Shanahan has been a phenomenal fit, and I'm not too worried about the offense, and I think they could be better. And hopefully, Christian McCaffrey's healthy and the offensive line holds up, and they're going to be fine until Brandon Ayuk gets back, whenever that is. But the defensive side of the ball, they lost some pieces, and there's going to be new starters on defense. And I want to go to a question from, and now I can't find it. Where is the question? I got a question here about the safety position. And I always love, yes, from Sean. That's right. From Sean on Twitter. And I always love, helping people with a bet, right? Like being the mediator for folks. And Sean says, I've got a coworker who's a fellow 49er fan. He's wringing his hands about how weak we are at safety every day. We are weak at safety. We're horrible there. Quote, can you guys give me anything I can tell him to maybe calm him down? Real quick, let's look at what the safety position is for the San Francisco 49ers. Like Brandon Ayuk, Malik Mustafa, turns out he was injured at the end of the year, and he's not going to be ready to go, even though he says he is. We'll see what happens there. I don't know how early, but Malik Mustafa, phenomenal rookie, might not quite be ready to go. So you got Jaire Brown. They brought in Richie Grant. They brought in Jason Pinnock. You still got George Odom, who's started for the 49ers, a special teams demon, but can play defense. And then the 49ers also drafted in was at the end of the fifth round now, 160? I'm getting they didn't have a sixth round pick. So it was a late fifth round, number 160 overall out of Kansas State, Marcus Siegel. I would be shocked if Marcus Siegel is out there and starting in week one. That would probably mean that something else bad happened injury-wise, or that he was just flat out phenomenal. Richie Grant, I think, is well suited to. This is one of the problems I had with the 49ers build last year was Jaire Brown and Malik Mustafa were both kind of strong safety style players. Now the 49ers interchange their safeties, and sometimes you're playing deep, sometimes you have to come down, sometimes you have to cover and do a little man, sometimes you're covering a tight end or somebody, a wide receiver out of the slot. Sometimes you are in the deep middle of the football field and you have to kind of be able to do everything. But being able to do everything and being awesome at one of those things is different. And I think Jaire Brown and Malik Mustafa are both best suited to play a strong safety role. And so I expect Jaire Brown to play that role in the Malik Mustafa spot until Malik Mustafa is back. My question becomes, after Malik Mustafa comes back, is Jaire Brown moved to free safety, or is somebody else going to take that job at free safety? And first of all, I look at Richie Grant, who's a seasoned veteran. He's been around the league for a long time. He was a high draft pick. He was an athletic guy. And I would bet money that it's Jaire Brown and Richie Grant. As we sit here at the end of May, that's probably the most likely path to the 49ers starting the season until Malik Mustafa is healthy. And then maybe it's Malik Mustafa and Richie Grant. Maybe Marcus Siegel's in there. Maybe George Odom is the guy that's next to Jaire Brown. Who knows? Jason Pinnock shouldn't be discounted either. But here's the simple answer. If you like any of those names, if you like all of them, if you don't like any of those names starting for the San Francisco 49ers, it's just like, and I see some folks in the chat, Orlando, Siegel's going to be really good. He might be really good. And I think there's a chance he is really good. And he's super athletic, but I just did a regrade on the Peacock and Williamson NFL show of the 2022 draft. And it's amazing the high number of players that don't end up doing much in the NFL. It's just the nature of the NFL draft. And to sit there and expect a fifth round pick to just come in and start as a rookie, or start ever, or even make the team and play any role in an NFL career, it's just, that's not something that should necessarily be expected. And even from a first round pick, their first round picks in 2022 is 3 years ago. Lewis Cine, speaking of safeties, Lewis Cine, the 32nd pick in the draft. I thought he was awesome. He was a phenomenal prospect, fast, played on that awesome Georgia defense. He has not done anything in the NFL. First round pick at safety. It's pretty unbelievable. So you never know the direction that all of these paths and all of these careers are going to go. And there's injuries involved, and there's scheme fits. And then, it's just so much can happen in an NFL career, especially early. And to expect everybody to just be come in ready to play, and you're going to have 6 new starters that you drafted. I mean, it's possible, but it's really unlikely that something like that's going to happen. It's going to have to be a phenomenal draft, even better than last year's class, which is pretty good for the 49ers to pull off something like that. So that's obviously the big problem coming into this year. The big worry is how those rookies play and how they're able to play and how quickly they're able to make a big difference for the San Francisco 49ers. Or are they going to be leaning a lot on some of the rotational guys that they had last year that were part of a 6-win football team? And so that's the big question. And Robert Saleh can do a lot, I think, to help the unit, but he can't do everything. And he's not out there on the football field actually making plays either. So let's talk a little bit more about Saleh, a little bit more specifically about the safety position and why you should not be worried about of any position really on the team, why safety might be the one you should worry about the least in this era of San Francisco 49ers football. Next. Thanks once again, everybody, for making us your first listen here. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up if you like what you're hearing, if you like hanging out with us, and just let us know you stopped by hitting the thumbs up. And if you hit the notification bell on YouTube, you'll know and be notified when we do one of these live shows. And of course, if you're listening in your car, maybe on your work Thursday morning, we appreciate you. We love you. And subscribe there as well and hang out with us every day as we break down the San Francisco 49ers. And it's been mentioned in the chat here. Viet Ta says, I trust John Lynch in safeties. And in this John Lynch era, the Hall of Fame safety that he is, I don't know if it's his eye for talent there. I don't know if it's the way they coach the position. I don't know if it's because the way they play and how good they are up front has helped every safety that they've had play well. But the 49ers, in 8 years of the Lynch-Shanahan regime, with multiple different defensive coordinators, have never had a problem at safety. Like they figure it out. Bring in a guy off the street in training camp, starts the whole season, and is awesome, right? Whether it was incumbent players, Jimmy Ward bouncing around positions, was awesome when he was at safety. Jaquiski Tartt, one dropped interception aside, it's kind of sucks that that's what he's going to be remembered for, because he's a really good player for a long time for the San Francisco 49ers, starting caliber player. They draft a rookie, he looks good. They draft another rookie, he looks good. And they bring in guys that are special teams guys, they look fine when they're on defense as well. And look, if they don't like what they see in camp or in OTAs, there's going to be somebody on the street that they can bring in and maybe compete there and try to give them a little bit of depth at the safety position. You hate seeing a guy who was so good as a rookie last year, Malik Mustafa, be hurt and maybe not be ready to start this season. But hopefully he's back and he's the same guy, and he looks like he's going to be a real one for the 49ers, and love the way he plays. He brings so much thump, and he's got range, and he's fast. And it seems like a really good dude as well. So you hate seeing someone like that get hurt. But, man, Antoine Bethea, Dante Whitner, Deshaun Goldson. I mean, it goes back even pre-John Lynch, right? The 49ers, my guy, Ronnie Lott, man. I wore number 42 when I was playing running back, playing flag football in junior high because of Ronnie Lott, right? The 49ers have always had phenomenal safety play, and especially in this era, they've always figured it out. So whether it's Richie Grant and Jaire Brown, or it's Jason Pinnock, or it is the rookie Marcus Siegel, the 49ers are going to figure it out, and they're going to be fine at safety. And part of how good they are at safety, part of how good they are in the whole defensive backfield, whether it's new nickel corner, Upton Stout, the new starting tandem on the outside of Diamador Lenore, who's now going to be paired in week 1 with Renardo Green, how good the defensive line plays, especially on those third downs. Can they get after the quarterback? Can they take up blocks and allow them to flow freely to the football on the back end? That'll be a huge key. So that's where Robert Saleh is really going to earn his money, is by being able to come in, coach this team up like he did in the past, and get these young players ready to play. And if they can eat up blocks and allow Fred Warner and potentially a rookie linebacker, maybe potentially a rookie safety, potentially a rookie nickel, all fly to the football, it's going to be huge for the San Francisco 49ers. And I expect them to have good safety play. Do I expect it to be excellent, like Pro Bowl safety play, especially without Mustafa? Probably not, but they've been fine. And so it'll be an outlier if they're not fine at safety, even just the guy off the street, the latest guy off the street, and they're fine. It's been pretty amazing what they've been able to do at the safety position in this regime. So if there's one reason to trust John Lynch, if there's one thing you can trust in him to do, is bring in a safety that's going to play good for the San Francisco 49ers. So that's why I'm not worried about it. But I am interested in camp and watching the competition and watching these guys in the preseason and seeing how it all comes together. So like, I'm kind of side-eyeing at the position, but there's a level of trust there that I might not have in other cases if they didn't have such a track record of figuring it out at safety and not really bringing a problem. On this the Robert Saleh conversation, and Orlando wants to know. He says he's curious what Saleh ends up thinking of Jaire Brown. Obviously, that's not a guy that Robert Saleh drafted. And Orlando says, I like Jaire myself, but his lack of quickness is not ideal. Good kid and good player, though, going to be interesting to keep an eye on. Yeah, for sure. And, I think he's started games and I think he's been okay, but maybe he's not been quite as good as the 49ers hoped. And there was an opportunity for him to not start this year if Mustafa was going to be healthy. But I think clearly Jaire Brown's going to have to start. And so when Mustafa comes back, how does that work? Do they have somebody just play strong safety in Mustafa's spot while he's hurt, and Jaire Brown's is out there at free safety, and he's a starter, and he's out there all year? Is that the way they end up playing it? I like him better at strong safety because of that lack of range that you talk about, and I would rather have another player that's in the deep middle of the field a little bit more often than Jaire Brown, just because of that speed. I do think back, and Croc and I talked about this after the draft, watching Travion Henderson, who's one of my favorite running backs in this class, who ended up getting drafted by the New England Patriots, I believe, right? Early in round 2. And wearing that number 32. And when we were evaluating Penn State safety Jaire Brown, and he just got completely torched on a play, and a guy ran away from him, outran the angle on him. I was like, oh man, that speed might be a little worrisome for Jaire Brown in the NFL, because he just got ran off on this by this number 32 in Ohio State. And then you realize how good Travion Henderson is and how explosive he is. And it's like, okay, maybe you get a pass because of how explosive that guy is, but there's a lot of fast running backs in the NFL too. And you do see that occasionally at times with Jaire Brown, even though he is a really good player, and I like the way he plays. The more he plays around the line of scrimmage, I think box style safety will benefit him as well, which is why I like him in that sort of Mustafa role while Mustafa's out. So the big question for me long term is the free safety spot. Maybe Marcus Siegel is that guy, and we'll see if he's able to prove that he's ready to go as a rookie. But again, I don't think we should expect too much from these rookies, which means Robert Saleh is going to be earning his paycheck. We started the show talking about Brock Purdy speaking to reporters in his press conference. I want to rewind a couple of weeks here to Robert Saleh talking with reporters recently. And something struck me about Saleh, that he just felt so much more confident. And maybe I'd kind of forgotten what he's like with the media, but he seems like a guy who's been a head coach more than he did before, right? And he was a pretty young coach, and he was a first-time defensive coordinator when the 49ers hired him in 2017. So he was pretty, he was pretty raw. He was a raw coach at that time in a new role. He just seemed seasoned. And when he spoke, you just really believe him. And it got me thinking that Robert Saleh is probably not going to be around very long, because he's going to get another head coach job. Like, he's going to be good in interviews. He's probably going to help the 49ers defense out quite a lot. And if the 49ers defense is good, he's going to get interviews again next offseason, and he might be completely gone. And at the most, he's probably going to be around 2 more years for the 49ers, right? So don't be shocked at all if the 49ers are again looking for another defensive coordinator next offseason if things go great with this rookie class and with the San Francisco 49ers defense, because I was just really impressed listening to Robert Saleh speaking. I was like, yeah, this is a guy that probably needs and probably deserves another chance and another go with another organization, because who has made it work with the New York Jets, right? And so get this guy a quarterback, and you might have a really good head coach on your hands for a long time in Robert Saleh. And I don't think he's going to be around for more than 2 years, and he might not be around for more than 1 year. I'm a big fan of Robert Saleh. I just like the way he speaks, and I think he's clearly been an awesome defensive coordinator in the NFL. And by the way, the New York Jets defense was not a problem at all in his tenure there. They just couldn't figure out quarterback. And him talking about his say and like he had more say as a defensive coordinator in the 49ers draft than he did as head coach of the New York Jets drafts. And then they bring in a Hall of Fame guy in Aaron Rodgers, and then he tears his Achilles in the first series. So Saleh just never had the opportunity. He's so bad at quarterback the whole time he was there. He's going to get another shot. If he gets a good quarterback, I predict Robert Saleh is going to be a good head coach in the NFL. Paney asks about of course, got to ask about the comp picks. He does have to stay for 2 years, I believe, to be part of that comp pick formula. So if Robert Saleh does stay with the 49ers for 2 years as defense coordinator, then takes a head coaching job, then the 49ers would be up for those third-round comp picks again for minority head coach hires. Last one here from Raj. How many sacks for Mykel Williams in season 1? 6 to 7? I think it's fair. I think he's going to play a lot more. So he had 5 sacks last year, and he was playing hurt all year for Georgia. I don't think he's going to be necessarily a pass rushing demon. And even, the guy I've compared him to was a young, really strong power defensive end that the 49ers drafted way back in the day named Aldon Smith. Aldon Smith was maybe a little better as a technical pass rusher, little more flexible, but that wasn't really Aldon Smith's game. Aldon Smith just had long arms and violent hands and went through people and pushed people back, but he didn't really hit until year 2 for the 49ers, and he was helped out a lot. They did a lot of those stunts, and early on, especially in his career, helped out a lot by the guy next to him in Justin Smith. So I don't expect him to hit those type of sack numbers, Mykel Williams, but I do think you can move him inside, and he can win right now today over guards as a pass rusher. I think he can convert speed to power, and he can win both with power and a bull rush, and he can long arm you. He can play half a man. He can soften one side of your body because of his power as a pass rusher. He can close on quarterbacks and ball carriers. He has a burst off the line as well. So being in the wide 9 might help him out as well, being able to utilize that length and that burst coming off the edge without a ton of, flexibility. He's not Von Miller or anything, or he's going to be, 6 inches off the ground as he's turning the corner. He's not going to win that way in the NFL, but he is pretty athletic, and probably more athletic than he's been given credit for. And I think 6 to 7, 6.5 would probably be a pretty good over under. And if you get to that 8 to 10 range, then you're really talking with Mykel Williams. He had 5 sacks last year, has an opportunity to maybe have some better opportunities to rush the passer in the 49ers scheme than he did at Georgia with the way they used him. And he'll just play a lot more snaps in a lot more games. So that should already get you to potentially 6 or 7 sacks, even if he's the exact same guy he was last year. So 6.5, that'd be a pretty good number as a rookie. Can he replace the 8.5 sacks from Malcolm Floyd? Or not Malcolm Floyd, the former wide receiver. Leonard Floyd was the ex-San Francisco 49er. He had, I believe, 8.5 sacks last year, right? Can he get to 8.5? I mean, that'd be a phenomenal rookie season for the type of player he is, because he'll no doubt be a boost to the run defense with the way he sets the edge. I think he could do it, man. I think in the end, he will be an 8 to 10 sack type of player in the NFL. And he is so young, so he has some time to figure that out. And usually with pass rushers, you kind of start to see it more in year 2, 3 than you do as a rookie. And so my advice to Mykel Williams as a rookie is, especially when he's on the outside, is do what Aldon Smith did. Use that length to your advantage and that natural power and leverage you have. Watch Jared Verse from last year as a rookie. He had one move, and that was the big question with Jared Verse. It's like, well, he kind of is a little tight. He's more of a power player. He's just all bull rush all the time. And so what did he do? He came to the NFL and was all bull rush and was awesome at it. To do that, be violent, use that power, lean into that as you develop the rest of your pass rush repertoire, and just be that power guy. Go through guys, utilize the length, be as violent as you can with your hands, and win that way. And I think he can win that way. And then he can use win some other ways as well as an interior rusher, which he did a little bit more in college. I'm excited for it. I like Mykel Williams. I think he's a really good pick. And maybe he doesn't become a spectacular 15 sack per year guy, but I think he's just going to be really good for a really long time, and has an opportunity to play for a while, because guess what? He's still only 20 years old. All right, love getting into the chat. We're going to keep doing these all offseason long as we approach training camp 2025, offseason Q&As. So anytime you want, you got something on your mind, drop a comment on YouTube, stop into one of our podcasts, or hit us up at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky on Twitter. And Croc and I will be back tomorrow right here, Locked On 49ers.